So I don't have a way to do that yet, but I think next Christmas, I think we should all find a way to have Christmas trees upside down in our yards next year. And Michael's going to be in charge of doing that at everybody's house. As we get together here and I'm looking around, this is our group that, plus some that has kind of said yes to starting this, and you guys that weren't saying yes to starting this, you guys jumped on board really quick with that and said, yeah, we want to be a part of that. And this morning, everybody in this room has helped out and serving in some way right now. And in some capacity, you guys are serving and building connections and a key part of what we do at Revive. So I think back to Christmas time, and as we were singing here, and I was thinking about back when Nathan and Dalton and Corey and those guys started 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago at Basswood with our youth band, and how rough it was at the beginning, but how much they've come along with that. And I was thinking about how confident the worship team is to get up and play some powerful worship music and really lead us in that and be the example for us. And then I got to thinking about just all things that we've kind of started doing. Think back to last Christmas. I think for the ones that were a part of it, we were at, did we meet at the library? I know we did for Thanksgiving. Did we do it? I think we met again at the Hawesville library in that meeting room. We had a little Christmas time, and we did a little mini service and sang some songs and did a little Devo, and then the kids had some crafts to make, and we had lunch together, and I think back on like how God's used us in a year, and how we didn't know what that was going to look like, did we? We kind of hoped it would look something similar to this, but I don't think we had any idea like how God was going to use us and the people that He was going to connect to Revive and use them to further His kingdom, and the baptisms we have and the life change that we see in one another, and the people that aren't here this morning, and that life change of those that have connected here to maybe for the first time, connected to a body of believers, not just a church, but people that believe. They've connected to people they believe in a real way, and for that I'm thankful. For that, that's why God sent His Son, right? That's why we celebrated. That's kind of all a part of that. He came to earth so that He could teach us and send us out. So just reflecting on that and the beauty of our Christmas Eve services and how many people pitched in to make those happen, I just found myself being very thankful this morning. But as we kind of close our Advent Conspiracy series today, one thing that I've noticed that I kind of love about Christmas time is Christmas cards. Okay, and does anybody know anybody? Raise your hand if you do. Does anybody know anybody that takes their Christmas cards and tapes them on a wall or on the back of a door or something like that? Right? Right? Does anybody under 40 do that? No. I don't know why, but that's what I've noticed, right? Like I think of my grandparents. My grandparents do it. An older teacher that I teach with, she got some Christmas cards at school, and she taped them up to the back of her classroom door is what made me think of that. But Christmas cards have kind of changed, right? Like the fad over the past 5 years has been more picture postcards, right? So you send that, and some people write up like a story about how their years went and a picture of the family either at Christmas time or during different times of the year, and they show those, right? And so you kind of get to keep up with the family and just be reminded, right? Because we have social media, so we see a lot of those pictures and those type of things of one another. But it's nice to kind of reflect back and look at that. And over the past few years, what's really caught on are these, they call them Christmas jammies. Has anybody ever watched a YouTube video, Christmas jammies? They're like songs redone to Christmas lyrics, or lyrics about the family. And so, like, if it was me and my family, we'd have a verse about JC's year and what she's gotten into in preschool and her birthday and what kind of birthday party she had and those kind of things. And so they've done that. I'm not going to show you one today. You can go spend your mindless afternoon zoned out on the billion that are on YouTube. But there's some really funny ones. The first one that got started was family, and they got on got like Good Morning America because it like went viral, and so people started making them. But when I think back, I think I really enjoy the Christmas cards that have pictures, and so I wanted to show a few this morning. Okay, the first one is the one that a lot of you have probably seen on Facebook of our family, and I tried to take a picture of it and put it up there because I didn't make time to find the digital copy. But obviously the cutest part is the guy in the black up top, right? But hopefully you noticed that I was at least in the picture eventually. But so that's what we've loved to do. Now, there's another picture of this, and I think it's a picture. I can't remember the order. I think this is a picture of my previous family. So you can look at Kendra and I here, okay? And this is just a couple weekends ago. And then you can look at what the wear and tear of having two little girls has done to me over the years. So I found that. Don't tell all the family that I put this up here. They're not in here right now, so we won't tell them. But, of course, that's Logan being held by Matt there, and Allie and Emily. Of course, Adam's on my younger brother. Adam's on the end there, and we took that at Easter, like 6 months before Kendra and I were engaged. So I was, I think, a freshman or sophomore in college. So it's been a few years ago, but definitely I'm blaming the baldingness on my two girls for sure. I would say three girls, but I like my house, and I want to sleep in it tonight, so I won't say that. But going back to family pictures, right? That's, we look mostly happy. A few of us have trouble with the sun, apparently. We'll blame it on the sunlight shining in on us. But this is often what the, let's make sure that wasn't Matt walking in. This is what often, the next picture that we're going to show is often what happens in pictures, right? Now, this is not our kids. I just found this on the internet. But when you take family portraits, and everybody's taking family portraits, right? Now, you get to one, maybe two pictures that's like perfect. Everybody's looking at the camera. Everybody's smiling. You hope at least like not like crying. At least they're looking at the camera and don't have a screaming face on like this. But how many pictures, I wonder, like I'm not a photographer, but I wonder how many photography photos out of one photo shoot end up more like this than the other, right? But we love that perfect picture. And, of course, you can find these all over the internet because some of them are absolutely hilarious. Like, one's laughing at the other, the baby's crying, and everybody's like grinning and smiling at the baby that's crying. If you can go back to the first one, Cody, this is, I want to see if you can see it or not. But if you look at Kendra's hand on Harper, she kind of got her cupped around right there, trying to find her tickle spot to get her to giggle. That's what we were doing. And JC's trying to make her cute little sweet little voice that gets Harper going. But JC wanted to turn around and talk, so we said, look at Melina and say that, the photographer. So we had JC making silly noises like, you're so cute, yes you are. The high-pitched voice, but she's looking at the photographer saying this. So this just looks like we're all just smiling like, all right, look at me, click. But that's not really how it happened, is it? Obviously. And, of course, we gave up. We had tears, and we got lucky. We got that one before the tears came out. But those Christmas pictures are fun, and it's fun to get the ones that really capture what's going on, right? But oftentimes, relating this to the nativity, we've talked about the nativity a lot. Andrew, you missed a picture of yourself, thankfully. Kendra told me you're going to be mad at me, so we're not going to show it to you. Cody, make sure you delete it quickly. But when we look at the nativity, we've talked about the nativity over the past few weeks and what that looks like, right? And we set it out and we play with it. The little kids play with them, and we got the VeggieTales. That was our first nativity, was a VeggieTales nativity that we got. And so we play with it, we have fun with it. And really the nativity kind of is a snap picture, right? It's a snapshot of everything being perfect. Like, you don't see an animal trying to lick baby Jesus like we kind of had out in our nativity, right? You don't see what the actual happening. We just see the snapshot of something very pleasant and easy for us to kind of look at and say, oh, that's sweet. It's kind of like our family pictures, right? But that's not really what's happening in the nativity scene, and that's often not what's happening in our family photos. And going back, we think of nativity as brilliant and majestic and something just so peaceful, and it is that. But there's more to it, right? There's more to the story. We talked a few weeks ago about how the Christmas story is really a dangerous story. We had a psycho king worried about his power, right? And so it's dangerous from the beginning. And it is a cute story, but it's a messy cute, right? Kind of like our photo shoots. It's cute to see the final product and see what happens, but there's a lot of mess and hassle. Trust me, that was a long morning and afternoon of getting ready and making sure naps were ready. And you all know the deal with that. And so there's a mess. There's a hassle behind the cute nativity. And this morning I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. See, in like Mary's culture, it was pretty violent for her to not be married and to have a baby. Death by stoning was often the law there. Most often happened out of being pregnant without being married. And history also shows that when they called the census, in my reading, like I found that families didn't have to go. It was just the head of household that often would go. And so when they called the census, Mary did not have to go. But likely what happened was, what do you think? It wasn't very safe for her to be without her husband, right? Do you think she got ridiculed like Rick Pitino did maybe, walking out of the gym, right? Do you think some things were said to her that she probably wanted to say something mean back or give a sign mean back? Do you think there were gossip and rumors going on behind Mary's back? I'm sure the whole town knew, right, what was going on in the blab and the makeup. I'm sure there were rumors that weren't very safe for kids to hear about maybe what maybe a Roman soldier had done to her, and that the newborn baby from God was maybe just a cover-up, right? There are all kinds of rumors that could have been spread. This was not like a safe time for Mary just to hang out. See you in a few months, Joseph, when you get back, right? So she probably went because of that. And like I said, King Herod's not very happy about what's going on. He's heard, he's heard it. He knows that it's been prophesied that there's going to be a new king, and he's thinking new king that's going to take me over and going to take my power. So I'm not having that. So I'm going to wipe out every boy that's under 2. Right? This is not a safe place for Mary right now. So imagine having an angel come to you saying this is all going to happen. And here are some of the consequences that are potentially out there, right? That Mary's processing. But somehow, in the middle of all that, love still found a way, right? God's love for us, sending His Son to earth, found a way. And time again, we can see that in the stories in the Bible. Love finds a way. That's what we want to talk about this morning. Love finding a way. Like this right here. This is love. Like this is God's love giving Mary peace. Mary says this. After she hears all this, this is how Mary responds. Oh, my soul praises the Lord. Really? She's just processed all this? She's just, hey, Mary, you're pregnant. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. God made you pregnant. Like she's processing praise the Lord out of that. And when she knows the consequences of not being married and being pregnant. How my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for He took notice in His lowly servant girl. And from now on, all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One is holy, and He has done great things for me. That's like we can sit here and acknowledge, I can at least, and think, I'm not sure I would have that. I'm not sure I would have that same kind of focus. And we wouldn't. None of us would if we didn't have God in our life. If we didn't have that peace that can only come from God. And that's where Mary's at this morning. So here's my question, God's given Mary that peace and affirmation that she needed. In the middle of all that chaos and confusion and conspiracy, Jesus quietly slips in and changes the world, right? And Christmas changed the world from that moment. It changed how we can connect to God. It changes our eternity. So, can it still change the world? And obviously, yeah, I think, right? Yeah, it should. But, like, does it really change the world? Like, the past few days, has it changed the world? Could it have changed the world? Is it slowly changing the world, maybe? Because he's come for all of us. He's come for you, come for me, come for the people that are in bed this morning or up playing with all their new toys. I want to read Philippians 2, and I messed up the computer apparently this weekend, so it's not Cody's fault, it's my fault. But Philippians 2, 6 through 8 for you. It says this: though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave, was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. He followed God's plan for us. What kind of response should we have to something like that? Like, how do we respond to that? Sing a few songs? Is that good enough, right? I mean, that's good. I'm not worship Him, try to live a good life, right? Those are all good things. Is that where we're at on a response? I think the few verses before that, Philippians 2, 1 through 4, kind of helps us with this, maybe. A good place to start. Is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from His love? Any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose. So he's writing this to the church of Philippi. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take on the interests of others too. That's a lot to digest. That's Philippians 2, 1 through 4. So I may read it this week, every day. Just find time to read it this week and let that soak in, because that's a lot to digest. But I think that's a good place to start. I think there's really maybe not a better time to live this out, right? Do you think our world could use that right now? A body of believers building up a new revolution, right? Of people that love one another and put other interests first. See, we don't remember what we got last year. We've talked about that, how hard it is to remember the Christmas presents. You know, we try to live bigger and better lives, try to get bigger and better presents than we did last year, or try to give them. People are fighting still with toys in Walmart and all over the place, right? Still attacking each other and shooting each other over Christmas deals. I mean, that's the world we live in. Hopefully we're not taking part in that, but it's still there, right? Like, is the kingdom of more thing, are we done with that? Like, I have a hard time with it. How do we allow Christmas to change the world around us? Like, change us and then change the world around us today. And not get sucked into all this Christmas as usual type thing. Like, what's going to change from here on out? Not just for Christmas time, but in your life. I think we got a few things that we can do. And, God's plan and God's timing in this I think is perfect, because if there's a group of people that could hear this and receive it and do it, I think it's us, like the people that showed up this morning, us. Because this is simple but hard sometimes, because it takes time to. You just got to make it a priority, and sometimes it's hard. But I think the first thing is to pay attention to the needs of others around you. Simple enough, right? But kind of hard to do when we're doing the selfish thing. But Paul says, don't look out only for your own interests, but taking the interest of others too, right? So if we're taking interest in others, we're looking at their needs. So what does that look like? It means we don't shy away from the needs of others, right? So we all do it, myself included. We engage in a conversation. We probably did this with our family, some maybe family members, or people that we have seen around Christmas time. We engage in a conversation, but we dodge them. We try to get out of that conversation as fast as possible. Or we know they have a need, so we kind of gear the conversation to something else, right? Like we know they could probably use groceries, or we know they could have probably used cash, right? But we don't really ask them about their needs. And we come up with good reasons, right? Too invasive, that's their life, not mine. If they need it, they'll come ask. All those kind of things. I'm right here, all they have to do is ask. We know it's coming, we just don't have time for that, right? We know that person sometimes that might always ask for help, so we just avoid them. Like we don't have time to help them with our crazy life, so we're going to avoid them. Well, I mean, I've done that. We avoid people because we don't want to hear about it. We're tired of hearing about how hard life is for them. And so we don't want to help them because we don't want to have to hear it. It's easier for us to kind of just go on, right? We don't want to talk about and pay attention to their needs. We turn our heads or close our eyes because we don't want to deal with the pain they're experiencing. Sometimes we can sit back and if we really think about what somebody's going through, like, man, they've got it rough right now. So we don't want to have to like feel guilty or feel that that compassion that God would put on our heart. So we kind of like try to stay as far away as possible. Somebody that's suffering or going through sickness or has lost a loved one. Sometimes it's just easier like, man, that's going to get me too much. Like, so I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'll send them a quick message and then be done with it, right? So how do we really pay attention to people around us? Matthew talks like this. It says, "For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me." Like, that can be overwhelming sometimes when we think about other people's needs. And we may think, I can't fix it. Like, that problem is too big. I can't give my attention to that and fix that, right? I can't help everyone. So my thought to that was, as I was thinking, because I say that sometimes, like, that's just a bigger problem than what I can handle. That's a bigger financial commitment than what I can handle. But is that a real good reason for not helping? Right? Andy Stanley's a pastor, well-known pastor, very, very profound pastor, and he says this: "Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone." Like, God's not calling Kevin to figure out world hunger issues or clean water for everybody by himself. Like, it's not my responsibility. God's not laying that on me because I'm compassionate about it to take care of it. Like, go make extra money, Kevin, so you can take care of it, right? That's not my responsibility, but I can do for one person or one family what I want to do for many families. I think another thing is when you see a need, meet a need. Something I thought was catchy and easy. See a need, meet a need. The verses that I just read earlier didn't say, "I was hungry, so you solved world hunger," right? No, it said, "You fed me." If you see one person that has a need, then you can meet that need, right? It didn't say, "I needed clothes, so you purchased brand new ones at the mall for me," right? Or you didn't give me, "I needed shoes, and you got me the newest LeBron James $200 shoes," right? It just says provide. See that need and meet that need. Challenge right now. Do something. Let's begin to do something. When we see a need, let's do it. Let's meet that. Make an impact on somebody's life. It's not late to adopt a family for Christmas that just had a rough Christmas. Shire them with gift cards. Grab a couple of people around you and say, "Hey, we want to do that." You don't have to wait for Revive to have a food pantry to go get groceries and take them to somebody. You don't have to wait for Revive to say, "Hey, we're going to have a mission day. Let's go work on somebody's house." Somebody's house, grab a couple people, and let's go work on it. Like, you see that need, you can go meet it. Justin preached a couple Sundays ago about just a powerful message that he said at the end. He said, give the gift of presence, right? Give up your time. All of us may not have the financial abilities to go meet financial needs and provide groceries all the time for somebody, or maybe even right now, maybe even one time might be hard. But we can give of our time. We can invite somebody over for a meal, or just watch a movie, something that you are already doing. You can give that time and share that time with somebody else. There's always room for somebody else at your table. A pastor I follow that was in Louisville that started a church, Him and his wife and his kids know it too. Once a week, they have a college student, because they're close to U of L, and they've connected, and they've got a church that's really focused on college ministry. They have college students over. They got a night that they set aside every week to have somebody over, and the kids know it. They have little kids, and they know that that's time to sit around the table. And of course, the little kids are excited because they hope that after dinner they get to play with them, right? And they get to go drag them into the room and play with the Barbies or cars or whatever, video games. But there are opportunities like that we can meet there. Last thing is, I think, don't forget. Sometimes we get so focused on helping others, we forget we're needy too. Don't forget, you're needy too. This year's been filled with challenges. Here's something I've learned. I need God. I'm a needy person. I can't do this on my own. We can't do any good on our own, can we? Revive cannot do any good if we don't have God. But the good thing is we just celebrated. We rest in Jesus' birth and celebrate that. His life that he lived on earth and his resurrection. His death and resurrection. And without him, this is all nothing. I mean, we can provide food, but without Jesus, it's just providing food, right? That will go away. There's no eternal difference. So we need God. You need God. And so, without providing food, without God, we're minimizing what we can do and what God can do through us. See, Jesus wants to make something beautiful out of Revive and continue on with the mess that it happens in our lives and in just the life of a church, the things that come up. But isn't that all of us? Aren't we all kind of a mess at one time or another? Every once in a while, we kind of get that way. We get things wrong. But we have God there. And that's why he sent his son to enter the world, right? To restore us and renew us. Paul Tripp has a book called Dangerous Calling. He wrote this, and this is kind of what I want to end with. We must be enthralled by, in awe of, can I say it, in love with, our Redeemer. So that everything we think, desire, choose, decide, say, and do is propelled by the love of Jesus and the security of his rest in his love. We must be regularly exposed, humbled, assured, and given rest by the grace of our Redeemer. Our heart must be tenderized day by day by our communion with Christ so that we can become a tender, loving, patient, forgiving, encouraging, serving, and generous lifelong followers of Jesus. I kind of wrapped it up like this. To love like Jesus, you must be in love with Jesus. So let's pray. God, I just thank you so much for what you're doing in our lives and how you're using Revive Community Church in our families and how you're just working in our families and working in and through us at our jobs and our places where we spend our time. God, and I just pray that as we move forward this year, we focus on loving you first and then loving unconditionally. Because we want to love like you, God. We want people to see that change and recognize that you offer eternity that's worth whatever suffering might come on earth because of the eternity that lies ahead, God. So may we love like you, but may we first be in love with you, God. In your Son's name I pray. Amen. This is something I'm excited about and passionate about, and I think that is part of where we start off with 2016 is loving God and falling in love with Jesus more and more so that we can love others like it. Amen. So let's sing and let's just, may this be our closing song, Start a Fire. May we just say this as a prayer. God, start a fire in me.